Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is the Simple Handmade Everyday Podcast, where I talk about living a creative, intentional life. I like to chat about quilting, sometimes knitting, what I'm reading and watching, and a little bit about self-care, productivity, and keeping a cozy, organized home. I've got my cup of tea in hand, so grab yours and let's settle in for a chat. This is episode 78. Hello, friends. Oh my goodness, it feels so good to be back. It's been a few weeks since my last podcast, and a lot of life has happened since then. If you follow me on Instagram, no, not on Instagram so much, maybe, but also in the Simple Handmade Everyday Facebook group, you will know that I actually went and spent a couple weeks at my dad's in Idaho taking care of him because he was hospitalized with COVID. He was vaccinated. It was a breakthrough infection, so get those booster shots, people. I feel like depending on where you are, if you got vaccinated kind of as soon as you could, it's time to get a booster. So, and I feel like through divine intervention, I had actually gotten a booster on Monday, and then a week later, I was flying into Idaho, walking into a situation where I knew my dad was still contagious with COVID, and so that luckily worked out really well. So, anyways, that was I wasn't sure how I bought a one-way ticket. I wasn't even sure how long I was going to go. I wasn't sure how he was going to recover. He's he's in his 80s, and so you kind of don't know. But he did great. I actually got myself tested twice for COVID while I was there. Just it's kind of allergy season, so a lot of symptoms that are kind of allergies. You start to cough and feel a little weird in your lungs and stuff. So I was very careful, but luckily that worked out okay. And all in all, he did great. It was fun to take care of him and to do some good cooking and, just share that time, that kind of bonus time with my dad. We do see him, a few times a year. So it's not like I haven't seen him for a long time. I just spent a week with him at the lake house in the summer. But just me and him in his home, because when he comes here, he's in our home, and so he's not kind of in his normal routine. I have to say, one of the things I was so grateful for is that my job is a job that I can do from anywhere. So all I had to do was pack up a computer, and I set it up in his front room so that during the day he could just be in his, his family room in his recliner, watching his shows, taking lots of naps, and I was just working in the other room. And the modern technology, sometimes it's a curse, but so often it is also a blessing. But yeah, I felt like I just got this bonus 2 weeks with my dad at this point in his life, and it was really fun. We had lots of good talks, and I will talk about it more when we get to the TV section. But yeah, I got to kind of just jump in on the types of shows that my dad likes, which overlaps a lot with what I like to watch. If you've listened for a while, you will know that it was my dad that got me into Jeffrey Archer when I was in college. I'll talk about that more later too. And so we definitely have very, very similar taste in that way. Another blessing of him needing me at this time is, we are empty nesters. And so it was not a big deal also for me to just pick up and go as it would have been when I had younger kids. So I'm just, trying to find the silver lining in these things. I was actually gone for 3 out of 4 weeks. I traveled a week for business, was home for a week, and then 2 weeks gone with my dad. And so while I was helping my dad out, all 3 of my kids hopped on a train and came and stayed with my husband for a couple of days, like a long weekend, which was really nice. We had a FaceTime dinner where they put me on the iPad at my place, and so we got to have dinner together. And he's a great cook. He's really, I like to say, he's the real cook in the family. And so he just filled them up with, tri-tip and shrimp and pasta, just like all kinds of really good home cooking, which all 3 of them have been missing. So that was really nice, and made me just feel good that kind of gave him a little bit break from just being home alone all the time. The other fun thing that has happened around here is as soon as I got back, we started looking for a rescue dog. If you've been around here for a while, you will know that our beloved dog Teddy, who we had for, I think it was 14 years, passed away in June. And then frankly, in March before that, we lost our cat Tiger. So in beginning of March, 3 kids home, 2 pets. By September, just me and my husband. So it was a summer of change. So we decided that at first I was like, I don't know if I ever want another pet again. I can't go through this heartbreak. This is too hard. But, and we also were like, okay, we've got some independence. We have in 15 years not been able to just go on vacation or just go for a long weekend or leave for the day without making arrangements for a pet. But ultimately, we just started talking about it and decided that and I say this with air quotes, inconvenience of having to deal with that is, does not outweigh the joy of having a pet in your life. So we checked out some pets last weekend, and nothing was quite right. And we really tried to go into it with we have to be willing to walk away if it's not the right situation. And kept doing, some research through Pet Finder and AdoptAPet.com. And we found a little rescue dog on Thursday. And so she's we've named her Bailey. She's a little terrier mix. It's a rescue dog, so you don't really know. If you are of a certain age, she looks like Benji, which just makes my little 8-year-old self so happy. When I was 8 and that movie came out, I wanted nothing more in life than a dog that looked like Benji. And I wanted to name them Scruffy. And I wrote many, many short stories about this in school, about my dog Scruffy. And we actually considered naming her Scruffy because it just was so perfect. But the kids, we were sending pictures and they were all weighing in with names. And we tried out a few names and realized I really wanted to name her Rory. She's kind of reddish. And but I just thought that seemed so perfect. But when you just yell it out loud to call it just didn't fit. You just got to try stuff out, right? So anyways, so we have Bailey, and she's a very different dog than we've had before. She definitely needs some training, and she's a little more fearful, but as I'm recording this Sunday, and we got her Thursday afternoon, so she's still very new to the house, and I'm looking at a gazillion dog training videos, and it's been a while since we've had a new dog. But she is definitely opening up and being more, she's very affectionate, which is what really stole our hearts. But now she's playing fetch, and she's running around and just, obviously settling in. And so super, super excited about that. My new favorite dog training YouTube channel is called Zach George's Dog Training Revolution. And so if you have a dog that you're interested to check that out. But if you guys have any dog trainers, like YouTube video type things that you really like, please let me know about that, because I just, I'm just in that information absorbing phase right now. So anyway, I was able to take care of my dad. Now we got a new little doggy to love. She's about a year old. So I was just super excited about all of that. That said, let me now tell you about the cup of tea that I'm drinking. I think I talked about it last podcast, but I'm still completely in love with it. It's from Harney & Sons, my favorite. Not a sponsor of the podcast, though I wish they were. It's called Cherry Blossom, a delicate green tea with springtime cherries. It's a very lightly flavored green tea. It's just so perfect for my morning cup of tea, which I usually have around 9 o'clock after my 2 cups of morning coffee. And it comes in the super cute pink tin. That's in it. I'm using the sachets, which is loose leaf tea in a high quality tea bag. And I'm just going to have to come up with something to use this tin for. That's the thing, is they have these great tins, and you just, as a sewing person, you can keep notions in them. But, I kind of have a lot of them now. I really should plant succulents in them or something like that. But anyways, loving the Harney & Sons Cherry Blossom. And I need to keep buying some new teas to talk to you guys about. They've got a whole bunch of new ones that are a little more earthy, a little more fighting the menopause, stuff like that. So I'll stay on that for you. And I'd like to thank the Fat Quarter Shop for sponsoring the podcast. As you know, I love the Fat Quarter Shop. They have the biggest selection of quilt fabrics. They've got all the big names, all the new lines, all of the basics. I love actually just ordering like 5 yards at a time, quilt backgrounds, whites, off-whites, all the solids that you need. Absolutely love them. They have the best customer service, fast shipping, and I just can't say enough good things about them. One of the things that I love about them is there's always something going on. There's always a quilt along, a charity quilt along. I talked about that last week, a block of the month, stuff like that. And I just think it is so fun to find your community of other quilters through doing the same kinds of patterns. Today I wanted to talk about the Rose in Bloom block of the month. I've talked about it before, but I have the pattern in my hands now. It's from Vanessa Gertzen of Lella Boutique. And if you have seen her fabric, she just completely encapsulates my style. I love it. And the Rose in Bloom is a block of the month. It's starting in December and it goes into like June of 2022. And this is an awesome block of the month. If you are looking for a fun sort of easy quilt skill builder, you want to quilt along with someone else who is interested in quilting, this is such a great block of the month because it really takes a lot of your standard traditional quilt blocks, does them in a fun way, and then puts them together in a quilt that looks way more complicated than it really is. So it's using blocks like 1 month is the plus block, another one is a bow block, a pinwheel block, a sawtooth star block, and you make them, you make a few of them each month. You got the month to do it, and then you put them together in this amazing pattern that you would never guess was built from such standard units. So I am absolutely loving the Rose and Bloom block of the month. They also have a bunch of great gifts for yourself or the quilter in your life. Last podcast I talked about the Lori Holt Quilt Planner, super cute. I'm doing a giveaway on that. You will actually see a few giveaways from me with some of their fun things, like this water cup I'm drinking out of. It's the also Lori Holt. It's a tumbler, an insulated tumbler, the type that get a little narrower so it fits in your car really well. And I've been obsessed with this tumbler all week, and I'm drinking my Sodastream bubbly water out of it right now. So I'll be doing a giveaway for that too. I'll talk about the giveaways later. There's going to be lots of giveaways in the coming week. So make sure you follow me on Instagram because that's the easiest way for me to do a giveaway. But so they have just the notions and little fun things like, tote bags and tumblers and planners and things like that. So stay tuned for that. And there will be a link in the show notes to the Fat Quarter Shop that just handles all of your online quilting needs. Okay, let's talk quilting now. What have you been working on? I love over in the Simple Handmade Everyday Facebook group when we share the projects we're working on. I am always so inspired by you guys, especially when I'm not doing a lot of sewing myself. Being out of town for the last, like 3 out of 4 weeks, I've been doing more knitting than sewing, but I am plugging away on, last time I talked about doing the white binding on my Cabin Valley quilt. And so this week I made the binding, and last night I sewed it on so I could just sit there and hand stitch it, as we're watching TV or whatever. And here I really need to get it into some good light, but I mentioned that sometimes from Fat Quarter Shop I just buy like 5 yards of some of my favorite background fabrics, Motabella solids, 97 and 98. One's a whiter white and one's a little bit more off-white. Don't ask me which, and I just need to get this straight in my head. I at one point made little swatches, and I took those down when my son used my sewing room as his desk during the pandemic. But anyways, I think you might know where this is going. Is I picked up the fabric that was just on my sewing table, sewed it on, and then when I was straightening up, I found the other white fabric and thought, oh, actually, what I made the binding from, there was a lot of that, but I've already used, obviously the background that I used is the smaller amount of fabric, so that I sewed the wrong color white on, and I need to get it into some light to see if it matters. Would this bother you? I think it would bother me, sadly. And I'm bummed because it took me so long to just go, okay, I'm going to use the white. I'm just going to do this, and to now think that I've got to tear it all off. I'm a little bummed about that. But anyways, so was ready to do that. Might have to wait. I'm also still working on the scrap quilt I've talked about for the last few episodes, and that's been fun. So I'm using this this big color wheel that I got from C&T Publishing, and it shows shades and it shows hues, where you mix it, it's a color that's either mixed with white or with black, those types of things. And I'm able to pull out I want to call them my scraps, but there's just really my stash. And what I'm trying to do is every block, I want to use 12 different prints in the same color family. So 12 different aqua prints, 12 different pink prints. And I don't always have that. So I've repeated a few, but I've realized I don't like seeing that fabric more than once in it. But it is so nice to be able to pull these fabric out and go, okay, I'm going for pink. So this is the pink. I'm laying it on the color wheel, and every pink I can see, oh, this goes more blue, this goes more purple. This, you can really see that all pinks are not the same. All blues are not the same. I mean, we know that, but it's very easy when you've got the color wheel laid out to figure out which direction it's going and why it's not working and what is close enough and what is a step too far. So, I started sewing up that pink block yesterday, and I'm just gonna, as time goes on, I'm just gonna go, okay, now I'm gonna make a navy block, now I'm gonna make a green block. I'm just gonna do them one at a time, and it seems super doable and a fun way to just get into my sewing room every evening. Sometimes I feel a resistance for that, and what I've really realized is I need to have a very clear objective when I go in there. So if today, I'm gonna sew the other half of my half square triangles. And if I'm still feeling it after that, then I'll start sewing these units together. And when that unit is done, when that block is done, then I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to pull out the green. And tonight, all I'm going to do is I'm going to find my 12 prints. And I need those little bite-size, clear objectives to overcome my, I know that I love to sew, but weirdly, there's this weird psychology of overcoming the inertia of getting in there and sewing. So, but it is, it's the 21st of November, 2021. We are headed into Thanksgiving week, which is why I'm so bummed that I might have to redo that binding, because I wanted to clear up that table for one of my kids who's coming home. He's going to need a place to do homework, and that's my sewing space. So I'm going to have to figure that out today. Anyways, here's a question for you guys. Do you make Christmas gifts? Do you make Christmas quilts? Are you in the, oh my gosh, Christmas is coming, I need to, or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate, I need to start making these gifts? Or do you make them before? I have a rule. I don't make like quilts as gifts for birthdays or Christmas or anything like that. I make quilts and I give them away, but I do it for no reason. That's my thing, because I don't like to feel pressured. And so if I'm going to do any Christmas sewing, and I've made us stockings, I have made a gazillion table runners and coasters and things like that. And I do enjoy doing that, but I need to do it in a way for myself that it's no big deal if I don't, it's like for us, if I don't finish it, it's no big deal. If I finish it in January, not a big deal. I need my quilting life to be not stressful, because it's a hobby. So I'm just curious, so let me know however you want, Instagram, show notes, just comment on that, whatever you want to do. And I'll probably put a question in the Facebook group, just, what's your philosophy about sewing gifts at this time of year? Is this something you're into? Does it bring you joy, or does it completely stress you out? And speaking of ways to not be stressed out about things, this whole episode is going to be a lot about me talking about things that I'm just kind of really loving right now, that for what it's worth might be a good gift for yourself. I'm all about giving my family lists of exactly what I want. I'm also more likely at this point in the fact that I have a job to just buy them myself. But when it comes around Christmas, I start to put together some lists of things. And so this would be something I would ask for. And it would also be a great gift for if you have another quilter in your life. So this is from A Quilting Life, from Sherry McConnell, A Quilting Life Planner and Workbook. Your how-to guide to getting and staying organized. So you probably know Sherry McConnell. She is a Moda fabric designer with her daughter Chelsea, Sherry and Chelsea. She has a Quilting Life blog, podcast, video podcast with her daughter too. And she is, she's an organization queen. I love everything about her. So I want to just talk to you about this planner. And it's not like just your normal, quilt organizer. There's so much more to it because she really understands organizational systems. I'm just going to flip through and kind of tell you parts about this. One thing I always like to say about Sherry is because she's a fabric designer and she designs quilts to show off her fabric line. And so if you ever have a fat quarter pile, a fat quarter stack of, what's that called? A fat quarter collection. I don't know. Of a full fabric collection, and you're not sure how to use all those different prints in a quilt, she will show you. She has a gazillion beautiful patterns that really specialize in that. So she, of course, has a monthly planner, and this isn't dated, so it can start whenever you are ready for it. But she's got these exercises. She's got so much in this that this is a planner that you're going to want to keep and use over and over, and so that you can continue to journal your thoughts and your experiences with it and refer to a lot of the advice in it over and over. So she starts out with some journaling exercises called reflection exercises, talking about, what were your favorite finishes over the last, few months or the quarter, the year. Why were those your favorites? Now let's talk about the ones that were not your favorites. Why were those not your favorites? And this is to help you really to dig into what are the quilts that really speak to your heart so that you make the quilts that are most reflective of you. And so I think that was really cool. She has you kind of go through your current organization systems. Is it working? Is it not? What about your organization systems, not just for your sewing, but what about meal planning, cleaning, shopping, things like this? What's working? What's not? What do these have in common? She talks a lot about how to make lists and keep track and the different ways of keeping track of your quilting projects. What are your current works in progress? What do you feel like what do you want to finish in the next month, quarter, year? What's a long-term project that you want to finish? It doesn't have to be done this year. This is for instance, I have a hand piecing project that's gonna take me many years to finish because it's a big quilt, but I'm not making progress on it. And you know why? Because I'm not planning for it. And so that is one way, bringing that to the forefront of my mind. I realized, you know what? You have to work on stuff to finish it. Let's get that on my long-term list, and let's schedule some time every week to plug away at that. So she talks a lot about, just how to keep your momentum going. A lot of information and advice about cleaning and organizing your sewing space. And if you read Sherry's blog, and everything for her is called A Quilting Life, you will just see that she has a beautiful sewing space. It's well organized, and she makes a lot of quilts. So she needs to be organized. So she totally knows what she's talking about. Again, here's another section on monthly, quarterly, and yearly planning. She has places for you to keep an inventory of fabric, of rulers, of patterns, things like that. What else? There's so much in here. I mean, it's going to be one of those things that you're just going to go back to over and over again. She even has a place to record your quilting heritage and your legacy. how did you get to where you are in your quilting journey? And that will be so fun for somebody else even to look at this later on. So, and then of course, in some ways, it is a project planner, but it is so much more because of what I just talked about. But then of course it has the place at the end to plan your projects, to make the lists of what you have, what you need, what are the next steps that you need to take, all those things to help you keep the momentum on each of your projects. So anyways, this is, it's a delight. I'm going to spend some quality time just figuring this out and kind of recording. I'm kind of really looking forward to recording my my quilting heritage, because even though my mom, who passed away over 30 years ago, was not a quilter, I feel very confident she would be right now. We would be having so much fun together sewing. But she was I want to say a seamstress. She made a lot of clothes. She made curtains. She made my prom dresses, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where I really learned that sewing was just a normal thing. It was a good skill to have. I was never scared about it. But I feel like it would be fun to really journal that out and get that down on paper about the legacy that my mom left me, about feeling, very positively about sewing. So again, that is A Quilting Life Planner and Workbook. Highly, highly recommend it. I will put a link in the show notes if you want to see more. On the knitting front, I am still knitting on the elementary wrap. It is going to take me a year to finish that thing. I will link to it in case you guys are new and you don't know it, but a few of us here are knitting this very simple but wide and long wrap, aka large scarf, that's just stockinette. So it's knit for 120 stitches and then purl back. And what I learned, it's the project that I took with me to my dad's. And what's I find hilarious is I bought 3 skeins of yarn for this project, and I was getting to the end of the first one, so I brought the second one with me. And I was there for 2 weeks, and I didn't knit every day, but I knit a lot. And now I'm home, and I've been knitting, and I'm still on that last. I'm still on the first skein. There is something about, I don't know why, the last part of this, the Pearl Soho had caked it up for me, but there's something about the interior part where I guess I thought, oh, I'm almost to the center, but it is never ending. I don't know when I am ever going to get to the end of this skein and get to cast on the second one. So that's been kind of funny. It was a great project for me to work on at my dad's as we were watching TV at night, but I realized I think I really have terrible ergonomics when I knit, probably when I do everything. But here's a little PSA for you. So I was struggling with my neck, and eventually my shoulder, my arm started to get numb, and my wrist hurt. And I just realized that I think that it had a lot to do with how I was kind of sitting kind of half sideways as I was knitting. And I do think that the way I hold my wrist, I'm a continental knitter, and I do like that because you can knit a little faster, but there's something about the way I hold my wrist when I purl that I think is not great for it. So I do have to take lots of breaks. So I did set that aside for a while, but oh man, I hope by the next podcast I can tell you that I'm on to the second ball of yarn. Oh my gosh. So I also have a sock that I want to finish. And I've been watching some YouTube knitter podcasts, and I feel like I really want to knit a sweater. And I am 80% done with a sweater, and the second sleeve is not the same size as the first sleeve. And I'm realizing, you know what? I'm gonna rip that out this year. That'll be a 2022 project, is to just rip out the sleeves, start over, and finish a sweater, for goodness sake, because I love a hand knit sweater. So that'll be maybe a bucket list project for me for 2022. But I also just have to say that this is the time of year for handwork, whether it's knitting, hand piecing, hand quilting, which I'm also working on, or cross stitch, which is super, super hip right now. Another thing the Fat Quarter Shop has a lot of. It's the sit by the fire, watch the Christmas movies, be with the family kind of time of year. So I just encourage you to discover if you are the type of person that enjoys some kind of handwork. And it doesn't have to be hand piecing. It doesn't have to be knitting or crochet or whatever. There's lots of different forms of handwork. All right, let's move on to books. So I had mentioned to you before, when I was in college, my dad read Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer, which is this epic story of two men, or babies really, that are born on the same day, one in an extremely privileged life in Boston, and the other one in Poland in a basically on a forest floor, left to die. So extremely different circumstances, and we just go back and forth with how they are raised, and until their paths cross, and they basically become mortal enemies. And it is it's an awesome book. And so my dad gave it to me when I was in college, and I got so into it I couldn't put it down. I remember it was finals time, and that's when you're in college. One of the hardest things about being in college is you have to do so much reading that there's no time for pleasure reading. But somehow I got into this. Maybe it was during Christmas or something. So I started the book, but then I'm going into finals, and I was working, and I remember it was dark, and I left my office where I was working just as a helper or whatever, and I so wanted to know. I was in the last few pages of this book, and I wanted to know how it ended. I literally lived 10 minutes away, but I drove, and I guess I was thinking about it. I pulled into a parking lot under a light, and I sat there in the car and finished this book. And it had such a great ending. And I remember telling somebody, like, oh my God, I finished the best book. It's like the best book I ever read. And they're like, you're reading a book for pleasure during finals? I'm like, I know, it's crazy, but I had to know how it ended. So anyways, that was my first Jeffrey Archer book. I don't love every Jeffrey Archer book, but I do love most of them, including the ones I've talked about here a lot, which is like the Clifton Chronicles. But I wanted an audiobook. I wasn't really sure what to pick. So I went over to Chirp, which is like Audible. Well, I don't know. It's not like Audible, because with Audible you have to buy these credits and stuff. Chirp has audiobooks, and sometimes, like, the new bestsellers, they are like, what a bestseller one is, $24 or something, but they have a gazillion really good deals. So I just was flipping through the deals, and I was getting their emails for a while, but I'm just not going to buy an audiobook every day. So I got off those, but I went over there and I saw Cain and Abel for $2.99. Done. So that is the book that I listened to while I was at my dad's, and I was driving his Jeep around grocery shopping and running errands for him and stuff. And I'm about halfway done. It's so fun to re-listen to this book that I haven't, I read it, how old am I? Literally over 30 years ago. Scary. So anyways, check out Chirp if you want audiobooks. I also obviously use, Libby, which is, to get them from your library for free. And I've done that a gazillion times, but, you just can't find everything there. So I bought about maybe 4 books from Chirp, never more than $3, and I have enjoyed them all. So check that out. And what the book that I'm reading, I've waited forever for this. It's called The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. You might know her. I've never read a Sally Hepworth book, but I know she's very popular. I'm going to just reserve judgment right now because I'm not that far into the book. It seems good. It's got to be a bestseller. It took me like 6 months or some ridiculously long time for it to come up on my Libby list, and I'm a little worried about running out of time before I have to send it back because there's like a gazillion people waiting. So, but I thought I'd throw that out there for you. And then lastly, what I want to talk about, and I'm looking around for it right now. Hang on. Here it is. It is not a fiction book at all. It is a book called The Art and Science of Drawing. Learn to observe, analyze, and draw any object. It's by Brett Eveston. And this book was sent to me by the publisher. And I get a lot of, offers to send books, and I don't usually accept them, but I've always wanted to learn how to draw. I am not talented in any way. I can't draw and I can't sing. And if I could change myself, those are 2 of the things that I would change. And apparently for both of them, they are things that you can learn. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this to the test, because I do think that artistically, even in quilting, I wish I felt more confident in drawing. When I was working with Minky and we did Sew Illustrated, I mean, I was just always blown away how she could just so easily draw, in even a very simple, or I want to say primitive way, an adorable coffee cup, or just a little scene of a shelf with a plant and a teapot. And I just have zero, capacity to do that. No, that's wrong. I can't say that I have zero capacity. I don't know how to do it now, but I'm going to learn. So this book promises to teach me this, and I started out in chapter 1 where he talks about basic skills. I went out and bought an 18 by 24 inch drawing pad. So I looked through the materials, and that's the only thing I bought. I'm just going to use the pencils that I have, but he wants you to use a large pad like that so that you learn to draw with your whole arm and not just your hand. And even teaches you like the right angle to put it at, and like if you're drawing, like a still life, like where it should be placed in relationship to how you're sitting and drawing, and where you're looking at it and eye level, all this stuff. So let me just kind of tell you a little bit about this book. They talk about basic shapes and volume, and then they just have you do all these practice exercises, and just practicing 15 minutes a day. And it's like they give you little homework exercises like draw 100 circles, draw 100 ovals, draw 100 curved shapes, draw 100 straight-sided shapes. Like just things that are very simple, but just really getting the basics down. He talks about mindset and being forgiving. And then he teaches you a lot about how to draw volume and how to break down, like whatever you want to draw, how to break it down into its elemental shapes, how to draw lightly so that you can, get those things, the proportions correct before you really nail it down. So anyways, I will keep updating you on my progress with this, but this is also going to be, we're still in November, we're still in 2021, but this is going to be something that I'm going to start and go through 2022 and keep you updated. And the fun part is there's going to be a lot of giveaways between now and the end of the year. And this book, the publisher has agreed to give away a copy too. So I will do a giveaway on this book as well. Let's move on to movies and TV shows. Just by the nature of what my life has been like the last few weeks, I kind of have a lot of these. So when I was at my dad's house, I do talk to my dad on a regular basis, from home. And we at one point started talking about the Barefoot Contessa. I think it's because last year, in a little snit of not knowing what to cook, I reached out on the Facebook group and said, I need some new ideas. And one of the ideas that was given was called the ultimate stew recipe. And it was from Ina Gardner, the Barefoot Contessa. And it was so good. And I sent it to my dad, and he made it, and he loved it. I can't believe I didn't make it while I was there. But anyway, so we started talking about the Barefoot Contessa, and he's like, have you ever seen the movie The Barefoot Contessa? It's one of my favorite movies. I'm like, I didn't even know it was a movie. And so that's the first night that I was there. We watched The Barefoot Contessa. And this movie has Humphrey Bogart and Ava Gardner, as well as a bunch of other people that you definitely know. And it was delightful. Honestly, it was sad. It was delightful to share this with my dad is what it was. But it's a movie about a woman who's a singer, and I guess eventually becomes an actress. And she comes from very humble beginnings and really has to make sure that people in the business are not taking advantage of her. And obviously a lot of people do. It's kind of in a way a little bit of a Marilyn Monroe type story of just this beautiful, talented woman and how complicated that is in Hollywood. So anyways, really enjoyed that. Now, one of the funny things about my dad is that he loves mysteries. He loves detective shows, just like me. And although I got to say that I don't remember him reading, or I guess he read the Travis McGee books by John D. MacDonald when I was growing up. So I guess that was an indication, but I didn't remember him watching these types of things. But now he totally digs the Hallmark Channel mysteries, which I had never watched one before, but they are all those super lightweight, cozy mystery like novels that I like to read when I'm feeling stressed out. Well, this is what they are in movie form. You probably know this. I had just never watched one. So I'm like, okay, Dad, hit me up. Let's watch one of these. What are they like? And so we actually watched two. One was an Aurora Tea Garden. How about that name? Mystery. And that one has Candace Cameron Bure. And the other one, and what is her deal? I can't even remember. It was early on. I can't remember what her... Anyways, she's adorable. I'm trying to think of what her job is in that. And I got nothing right now. But the other one is Hannah Swenson Mysteries, and that's played by Allison Sweeney. And hers are more like she runs a bakery. It's like a bake shop type deal. And so I'm not going to say that they are great, but they were fun. Like if you are wrapping presents, like one of these little cozy mysteries would be pretty fun. I think you have to have the Hallmark Channel for that, which I don't. So anyways, those were really fun. He also introduced me to the Frankie Drake mysteries. And those, it's another one of these, there's so many good Canadian mysteries, so many good Canadian shows. So this takes place in 1920s Toronto, where Frankie Drake is a private investigator. And that was a completely new show to me. And so that was really fun. So those were just like, just your fun, lightweight little mystery shows. He's also completely into NCIS, which I had never watched. It's been on for 20 years, never watched it. I've watched many of them now. And that was fun, but not going to be my new thing. Okay, but here's the show that I really want to tell you about, and it's one that my husband discovered because I was gone so much, and he started checking out new shows, and it's on Netflix, and it's called Repair Shop. Have you seen this? Okay, as a maker, you are going to completely appreciate this show. It's in England, and they've got this repair shop with this thatched roof, and people, I want to say it's like what's that called? The Antiques Roadshow. People bring in like these things that are meaningful to them, usually antiques or, they're certainly old, that need to be fixed. And so they bring them to this repair shop, and you have these amazing craftsmen and artisans that are qualified to fix these things. You have people who do china repair, watchmaking, woodworking, upholstery, textile, painting, restoring, fixing a painting. The first one I saw is like, it was a painting that had a hole in it, and somehow they were able to fix this and clean it. So we actually watched a few of these last night, and my favorite one was somebody brought in a Royal Doulton, I think they just called it like a plaque. So it wasn't a plate, and a Royal Doulton is a china maker, right? But it was just something that was more decorative. It was a set of 3. It was that you'd hang on the wall, and it had this beautiful blue print on it of a little girl holding a basket. Like you could picture it on a china plate. But it was a set of 3, and this one had been broken for like 57 years. And so, and it had been, someone had tried to mend it. So part of it was actually kind of scraping off all the super glue. And it was amazing to watch her fix this and to get it glued together. And then actually, where something china has broken, along what she kept with the break edge. In some places, they just, things have chipped off. They don't, quite fit together perfectly, right? So she put some sort of a filler there, and there was a whole big chip on one side that she put a filler on that. And then she went in with paint, and she matched that paint perfectly and was able to paint over the crack, so that if you weren't looking for it, you would not notice it. I mean, if you were looking for it and you knew where that crack was, it wasn't 100% invisible, but it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Someone else brought in from the 60s, a swing chair that had this leather seat that had just fallen, just rotted, fallen apart. That was all kind of held to the chair with grommets and then like a leather, like, I don't know, what's the word for that? Like a thin leather strip. And so they wanted the leather, part where you would sit replaced. And the woman, took it on. Like there's just a gazillion different people with their different specialties. And I can really appreciate this. Once she was looking at it, she's like, okay, I didn't really think about how hard this was going to be, because the pattern that she needed to make for this piece of leather, it was contoured so that there was a place for, like where your rear end would be. It was a very complicated pattern, and it was made of buffalo hide, and she and the upholsterer are literally feeding it through a Juki, by the way, Juki sewing machine, and doing this top stitching, just like one stitch at a time, because you've got one shot at it. So many people kept saying this is a little nerve-wracking because I've only got one shot to get this right, so you are top stitching thick leather together. You can't unpick this. And as a matter of fact, when they got to the end of one seam, she realized that she had like 4 inches of bobbin thread left, and she was just like, what would have happened if I had run out of bobbin thread in the middle of that? There's no going back, So anyways, so that is called Repair Shop, and I do think it's just like, as a maker, you just appreciate what these people, the level of skill that these people have, and the level of patience and willing to do things that are super tedious. And you know what it has gotten me thinking about? I have a number of, I want to call them antique quilts, vintage quilts. I don't know. I even have a quilt that was given to us for our wedding that was hand-pieced. I didn't appreciate that for the longest time. But a lot of these quilts that I have, they even come from my husband's grandmother, they're wearing, like patches are coming undone, they're fraying. And it made me think, you know what? I should learn how to mend a finished quilt, and to get in there and figure out, I'm not exactly sure how to do this. How do you get in there if you've got a patch that needs to come out because it's, say, too frayed, and you put a new piece of fabric in there? How do you sew that from the outside? How do you get those seams underneath? I don't think you do. I think you maybe have to just do a tiny whip stitch, but I'm going to figure this out. So if you have any idea about how to repair, old quilts, or it could be a new quilt that just wasn't well made, I don't know. But if you know how to do that, I would love to learn how to do that. I am thrilled to welcome Silk & Sonder as a sponsor for the podcast. Silk & Sonder is a monthly journal subscription, and I have been using it for a few months now, and I'm completely in love. So to kind of let you know how this works is every month you get a new journal. So if you have ever started a journal and then kind of stopped and then felt like you had too many blank pages or whatever, you get a do-over every month. So every month is just whatever you want to make it. Also, every month has a theme. So in October, it was patience. In November is compassion. And what's fun about that is that they have journaling prompts that kind of center around that theme. Here, I've got my November journal here, and it starts out with reflections of the previous month, your intentions for that month. And what's cool about these journals is that there are similar elements that we carry from month to month, but then there are different elements. So there's always a surprise. There's a coloring page that's different. There's different prompts. There's just different elements from month to month as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And what I've really learned is that I get the most benefit from it when I get into it every day. I work a little on the journal prompts. I do a little bit of a bullet point like diary of things that happened that day. There's a place that could be a to-do list, but I use it for just a nice little diary of the day, and so, which means that I'm going to keep all these journals, and I think that it'll be really fun to go back to them annually. And it helps me to stay on track. There are weekly planning pages, so you can put your intentions for the week out there, and then you can just check in on them on a daily basis. But when the week that I went to my dad's, I was a little bit things were a little bit scattered that week, and I skipped that week, and I kind of felt it, but it was no big deal to just jump in the next week. So there's like sort of no pressure, and then the December one's going to be here before we know it. So anyways, loving that. They're having a annual supplement right now, so that if you want to kind of plan your year, that's another way to do that. But I have a code for 15% off, and it is SHE15, SHE15. I'll put a link in the show notes. You never have to write this stuff down. It'll be in the show notes, and I encourage you to check it out. And it'll help you make 2022, the year that you want it to be, to help you stay on track. Okay, so some things that I've just been loving that you might want to consider as you're kind of making your own Christmas list. Last year, I talked about Vionic slippers. I feel like when we get to a certain age, everyone starts having a little trouble with their feet. We've got bunions, we've got issues, and we all need better arch support. So when I started having some real problems now, it's been a year with my feet, and the podiatrist said, you need to always have something with arch support. Your days of being barefoot are over. I got some Vionic slippers, and here in California, this is when I pull them out again. I don't, I think in some places you could wear them all year, but man, I am loving them. I'll put a link in the show notes. They're a little bit pricey, and this is the other thing that I've learned, that my Christmas list from now on will be just pricey shoes, because I have learned you have to spend out according to your weakness. My feet are my weakness, so I need to buy. I can't wear cheap Target shoes anymore. Those days are over. So I've been wearing these Vionic slippers. I've had them for a year and just completely loving them. And apparently Vionic has lots of good shoes. They have some dress shoes. They have, there are Vionic flip-flops too, which I should look into at some point. So it's a good brand if you have issues with your feet. The other brand of shoes that I have come to terms with paying the money for is Birkenstock. And they might not be your style. I didn't think they were my style, but I did buy a pair. Oh gosh, I guess it was in the summer of the Arizona, like the typical Birkenstock look. And I always thought they were ugly. I did have a kind of a cuter pair of Birkenstock sandals, but they kind of went through the toe. But I realized I needed a pair of sandals. I couldn't wear the Vionic slippers during the summer. I needed a pair of in-house Birkenstocks that were just to wear around the house that wouldn't make my feet sweaty. So I decided to try the standard, it's called the Arizona style. I did find a color called Stone that's gray that I felt like just made the whole thing not so so obvious. And those are my very favorite shoes. They are no longer the in-house Birks. They are the everywhere in the world Birks because they are so comfortable. If you have issues with your feet, Birkenstocks might be the answer. And they are coming up with cuter styles. So now that I'm wearing those all the time, I did that through the spring and summer. And now we are into the fall and going into winter. And I just got a new pair they're called the Buckley. The Birkenstock Buckley, and they look like a loafer in the front, but they're actually a clog, so they don't have a back. And I was, served an ad on Facebook for these shoes in gray leather. So I guess these have been around for a while in suede, and then with like a shearling, like the inside, which would be great if you live someplace really cold, which I don't, but they have natural, like a leather, so not suede, gray. And they've been out of stock forever. Birkenstock finally told me we have them, so I ordered them. I just slip my feet into those. I'm just like, oh my gosh, these feel so good. So these will be my shoes that I wear with jeans when I go out. And they are pricey. They're like $140. They're going to be my Christmas present because I just, I'm loving them. And now I'm getting all my kids hooked on Birkenstocks, and my husband, who does not appreciate expensive shoes, is not appreciating this. So for last year, my expensive Christmas shoe gift was the Sandsgren clogs, wooden clogs made in Sweden, handmade. And I love those shoes. They do have a wooden, whatever is it called, footbed. So they are not the kinds of shoes that I can wear for hours because they're not, because of the type of foot. I have a neuroma. I have a nerve issue in one of my feet. I can wear them for, going shopping or whatever, no big deal. But if I'm going to be on my feet for 8 hours, they're not going to be the shoes that they fit. That they're not right for that, but for me. But so the Vionics, the Birks, and my Sandsgren clogs are all shoes that are expensive, but worth it. Totally worth it. The other thing that took me forever to really spend a little money on myself is a new blow dryer. So I have curly hair. I've kind of gone the curly girl style. But sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I want my hair to be like smooth, and especially I struggle with getting the back of my hair looking really good. So there's this blow dryer called the Revlon Volumizing hair dryer, and I had a hair dryer like this when I was like in middle school. I didn't even know they still made them, but it's a round brush built onto the hair dryer. And you do have to be careful because it can get pretty hot. And there are more expensive versions of these, like this the brand, I think it's called Lange, has one of these. But I just went for the Revlon one that I bought on Amazon. They also have them at Target. And so it's a blow dryer it's just with a round brush built in, and I can give myself a blowout like I just walked out of the salon in like 10 minutes, especially my hair's not too long right now. And it really gives me that awesome, kind of volume in the back that I'm looking for. So that has been like it cost about $60, I think. But I'm super glad that there's certain things that I need to get over myself about spending money on, but then have no regrets. This was one of them. AirPods are another one that I wasn't even planning on mentioning. AirPods are the best. They just are. So enough said about that. But while we're talking about things you can get at Target, I just bought some new shampoo and conditioner for like purple shampoo and conditioner. So if you've got that hair that's, like me, that's going gray or white or whatever, and it can kind of get that blondie brassy look to it, that's what purple shampoo and conditioner counter. And I've talked before about Dressed for My Day is a blog and a YouTube channel for women over 50, and she has lots of great information. But she talked about this line called Hair Biology that you get at Target. You can only get it at Target, and so I had to go give it a try. So I've been using the purple shampoo. I find really drying. So I was using the brand Pureology. After a while, I didn't think my hair could handle the drying elements of that, so I switched to the Pureology purple conditioner. But they're like $35 or $40 for a bottle. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So this Hair Biology is at Target for $10. So, each thing is $10. The shampoo, the conditioner, and then there's also like an oil that you can put on it. Now, I have dry hair, and I've been using this for a little while now, and it's not drying. When I put that conditioner on my hair and rinse it out, it's like so soft. I'm just like, my hair loves it. So if you're kind of in that, that time of your life, definitely check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Not an affiliate, just loving it. What else? Another thing that would be kind of a treat is the Sunday basket. I've talked about the Sunday basket many times. It costs like $100. Like it might be $97, but it's so worth it. And it's worth it that system of productivity and organization. You can go back through some other of my episodes. I've talked about it many times, but it is a way of deferring decisions about running your home until one set time that you sit down during the week. I do it on Saturdays. The woman who made it does it on Sundays. And it helps you to batch decisions and buying. So you just get on there, order all the things you want from Amazon at one time. You fill all your prescriptions, you pay all your bills and check in on your statements, and make some time to make progress on some of your longer term goals. Like for me, that's a bathroom renovation project, or for instance, buying gifts, planning for Christmas, planning for Thanksgiving, things like that. So, and I do feel like at $100, it's a little bit of an extravagance, but there's something about having the actual system that really makes you do it, because it's not just the system. When you buy the Sunday basket, you get videos and you get access to all kinds of resources to help you make the most of it and figure out the mindset behind it. So completely loving that. The other thing that I have absolutely adored, and I'm drinking now out of my cute little Lori Holt tumbler, is the Sodastream. It's the sparkling, making your own sparkling water. I wasn't sure that was going to be worth it when I asked for it for Mother's Day a couple years ago, but it is absolutely one of my favorite things. I use it every single day, and it helps me drink more water. So if you've been thinking about, there's probably sales everywhere, I don't know, but the Sodastream has definitely been one of those things that felt like an extravagance, but has been completely worth it. What else is on this list? Obviously, Olive and June. I know. I talk about, I can't believe I'm into nail polish. But that has been a game changer for me for actually getting my nails and my cuticles into good shape. I'm such a snob about my cuticles now. And they have this Cuticle Serum that I keep on my desk. I use it 5 times a day. And it has just solved my just yucky hangnail type problems that I was having with my nails before. So again, it seems like an extravagance. I know through the pandemic, I was like, I'm not going to pay whatever it was. I don't even remember, $60 to do this. But I used a 20% off code from another podcaster actually at the time, and completely now realize this is so worth it. There's so much packed into the Mani system. Now I have the Petty system, which I bought with my own money. They didn't send it to me. And I feel like I will still, my kids will probably give me a gift card to go get my toes done for Christmas, because that's a typical present. And that is its own level of self-care. But I'm so glad that I know I have the tools and the know-how to do those things now. So for yourself, or if you're looking for a gift for your daughter, sister-in-law, sister, mother-in-law, whatever, the whole kit, it comes so beautifully packaged. And then you just have all the tools to give yourself these great manis or petties. So completely loving that. So those are just all my kind of things that if you listen to me all the time, you know that these are things that I actually use and do love, but kind of all in one place. So are you guys doing are you into your Christmas shopping yet? I'm only just started to dip my toes in there. But I need to get going on that. As the kids get older, it's it gets, I don't know, it's easier and harder at the same time. The gifts get more expensive, but and we do give each other good lists. But I always want there to be a surprise in there, and that's the part that I find a little bit stressful. I love to give gifts, but I find it a little bit stressful. So before we go, I would like to say thank you to Butterfly911, who left absolutely the sweetest review on Apple Podcasts. I read every single one of these reviews, so thank you so much for that. If you feel so inclined, please head over to Apple Podcasts or Google, however you listen to the podcast, rate and review it. It helps other people find it, and helps the podcast to grow so that we can just keep spending this time together. Well, that's it for this episode. As always, you can find me online at my blog, Simple Handmade Everyday, where you will find extensive show notes and links to everything that I talk about. On Instagram at Kristen Esser, and there's going to be many giveaways during this month, so definitely check that out. And consider joining the private Facebook group, Simple Handmade Everyday, so that we can keep the conversation going. Have a great week.